Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builders Supply. This video is to bring you a closer look at the CRL DCSBA. That is a part number for a package of sex bolts. That's what this is. Sex bolts are used to through-bolt hardware. Door closers are the first item that comes to mind, but other hardware would be as well, such as exit devices. You can through-bolt push plates. Those can be bolted back to back to each other, and that is in essence a a through-bolt lug, they would call it. You can do that. Wouldn't necessarily be two push plates, but it'd be push and pull where they're bolted back to back. So lots of hardware will be through-bolted through the door by the use of sex bolts to accomplish that, also known as binder posts, through bolts, things of that nature. The term sex bolt for us applies in the sense that there's a difference between through bolting and using a binder post or a binding post and a sex bolt. A sex bolt is really a piece of equipment that's been designed for a particular application specifically, whereas a through bolt's just a bolt through the door and a nut. Like you might through bolt a half surface hinge to a door, but there's really nothing other than it being through bolt and grommet nuts. But a sex bolt is different, and here's what I mean. There are two aspects to this that make this a good use of hardware for the application. You'll get in this package four of the male and four of the female. The male is nothing other than a 1/4-20 flathead bolt. If you have a door closer that has a standard thickness body, like the ubiquitous Norton 1600 series and all of the copies and clones of it, this would be just perfect. About 1 inch length. If you have the Norton, or if you have the LCN, the Norton 7500 or the LCN 4040 series, no problem to use a bolt like this, but you'll need a longer one. My guess is 2 1/4. Don't quote me because I don't recall off the top of my head, but you would simply need a longer machine bolt. But the female side is still going to work just fine. Now, the two aspects that make this perfect for the application are as follows. But first, before I forget, you want to be really careful when you're using sex bolts or through bolts. In a project, the hardware set will detail the hardware to be used. There will be a line item for every component in your door closer, assuming that we're dealing with a door closer or an exit device. It will call out the fastener to be used for that installation. That's what's been approved. The submittals have been made. They've been sent to the general contractor, the architect, engineer. They've been approved and sent back. That will have the bolt package. It'll give an abbreviation of bolt packages there. Hardware goes to the job, and inside of there can be machine screws. It's a metal door. Let's just say it's a metal door. There can be machine screws. Perfect. Great. There can also be half of they could be packaged together, or you can have these sex bolts, the female portion, thrown in as well. The question is, okay, do I use these? So you use them because they're there. You put them all together and you through bolt it, and it's super strong and really great. No problem with that. Except that the hardware set called out, sheet metal screws or template machine screws. Actually, hold the phone. I have my shortcut here of what those fasteners would be called. And according to my abbreviation, you would call that closer out as TMS, template machine screws, which means you need to drill and tap. But the term for sex nuts and bolts would be SNB. So the hardware set called out TMS, but you installed SNB, and then the owner architect comes to the job and says, what are all those little dots on my pre-finished, Sapele mahogany fire-rated doors? Okay, so now there's a problem. So be quite mindful that you're installing this in the proper application. Don't use it just because it's included. Now, in a correct application, that closer would have never have gone to the job site with this in the box because the hardware set didn't call out SNB, it called out TMS. Okay. Now, the two aspects that make this super perfect for the job is two things. First, the length. The underside of the head to the end of the bolt is about 1 5/8 inches, just heavy on that. That's specifically intended so that when you drill a hole, I would drill a 3/8 hole on the outside and basically a 1/4 inch on the inside. You can go like 5/16. So this is 1/4 20, so that bolt is going to be a 0.237. So yeah, maybe a 1/4 inch. The body diameter is 0.373. So 3/8, you know, but don't go bigger than that. And then the outside diameter of the head is 0.63 inch. 0.63 inch on the outside diameter of the head. So a 3/8 hole on the inside. When you insert that into the 3/8 hole from the outside or from the opposite side of the closer, that 1 5/8 inches is basically taking into account the thickness of the steel on the other side and generally the reinforcing that would be there, so that when you tighten the screw down, the closer down, you're not able to crush the door in because the shoulder of the bolt will prevent that from being crushed. That's number one. Number two, these splines that are here. When you get that hole drilled, you're going to have to tap that in, and those splines will prevent that from turning. So those two aspects make this sex bolt specific for a closer application or for an exit device application, whereas through bolt and grommet nuts or just through bolts or just binder posts, whatever the case might be, would not be really appropriate for that. If you didn't have these splines, that outside is just going to turn on you. If you didn't have the proper length, I assure you that you could over-tighten that screw and kind of crush that door in, and you really wouldn't see it until you had a high-gloss white paint on the door, and you could see how the door skin kind of bowed in a little bit. So, sex bolts are engineered for the, they're designed specifically for this application, whereas other standard bolts really don't meet the same criteria because they're not designed the same way. So be mindful, though, if you're using these, that you know that you're supposed to use them. That's a true story, what I said earlier about architects saying, what are all those little dots on my beautiful doors? They got closer and realized they were bolts. So luckily, that wasn't my job, luckily. There is a link below this video to the cut sheet, and that cut sheet is going to allow us to review the DCSBA, and there's also the DCSB BRZ. That's the dark bronze version. It will, on that page, there's just a couple of ancillary products that are listed there as well, drop plates and a couple of covers. The extended description information down below, just it would be a repeat of everything that I've said. There's a link down below this video to the manufacturer's page where you can pull up not only all of the C.R. Laurence products that we sell, but also a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog. If you have any questions on the DCSBA, and when they say aluminum, they don't mean they're made of aluminum. They're not. That would not be permissible for use on a fire door. These are made of steel in a finish that would be complementary with aluminum. Any questions on this or any other C.R. Laurence product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you.